we will be looking at the topic human rights and social justice. And I believe you guys have already seen the flyers and all that, and I believe you are pumped for today's session. So without wasting much time, I would like to introduce our speakers for today. Like I mentioned, our session today is on human rights and social justice, addressing inequalities, child rights, and the fight against modern injustice. And with me here, I have three seasoned and expert speakers in the area of human rights. I have here Dorcas Asare. I also have here Abraham Anonyami. I also have here Dr. Karen Isiani. So I would like to briefly read their profiles before we begin the session. Okay. Yeah, where the how more where they okay. So our first speaker is Dorcas Asare, who is a human rights activist, a dedicated youth psychologist, and a passionate advocate for genuine change. With a strong foundation in volunteerism, she currently serves as the National Youth Coordinating Team Lead for Human Rights Education at Amnesty International Ghana. Now, in this role, she has led several NGOs to empowering young people through public speaking and advocacy initiatives. Dorcas brings a wealth of experience in youth diversity, adaptation, and crisis management. She is currently undergoing a training in diplomatic policy, further strengthening her capacity to champion meaningful impact in both local and global youth development efforts. We also have here Abraham Nyamiano, who is a first clinical year medical student at the University of Ghana Medical School with a deep passion for healthcare, human rights, and social impact. He currently serves as the National Officer for Human Rights and Peace under the International Federation of Medical Students Association, that's the IFMSA Ghana. In this role, he has led and contributed to both local and international programs, championing initiatives that uphold dignity, truth, and justice. Abraham's interests go beyond clinical medicine to include advocacy, innovation, and the pursuit of lasting change within his community and beyond. Master Abraham, we are grateful to have you here today. Our final speaker for today is Dr. Karen Isiani, who is a recently qualified medical doctor in Cameroon and a passionate advocate for human rights and social justice. She currently serves as the National Officer of Human Rights and Peace, that's the NOP, for IFMSA Cameroon, where she leads nationwide initiatives focused on promoting dignity, equity, and the well-being of marginalized populations. With a strong belief in the intersection between health and human rights, Dr. Isiani has actively engaged in community outreach, policy advocacy, and educational campaigns aimed at fostering awareness and empowering young people. Her work reflects a deep commitment to building inclusive systems where every voice is heard and protected. Ladies and gentlemen, these are panelists for the discussion today. And I would like to, if Dorcas Asare is on the call, I'd like her to say a few words before we begin, to give us a wave.
Hello, Albert. I hope everybody can hear me.
Yes, please.
Okay. I want to say thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hope that the expectations that all participants have would be met, and we would share our insights and learn more about the human rights and social justice and child rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dorcas. Dr. Karen Isiani, if you are here, I'd like to hear a few words from you too before we begin.
Hello everyone. I'm newly Dr. Karen Isiani. I'm from Cameroon. I'm really honored to be among this panel today, and I can't wait to share what I know on human rights from a medical doctor's perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Master Abraham Nyamiano. If you are also here, I'd like to hear some few words from you before we begin.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Albert Checho. I think I'm very honored for this opportunity, and I hope we have a meaningful and an insightful conversation on this topic because, I mean, this topic is a very pertinent issue in our current society. So I think this is a good platform to expatiate more on this topic and get to learn more things from everyone here. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
You are welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, we've heard from our speakers, our panelists for today. So without wasting much time, I would like us to dive right into today's topic, human rights and social justice. So I'd like to start with Dorcas Asare. Dorcas, please, when we talk about human rights, is what comes to mind to the layman? What do you mean by human rights? And do you think the expression human rights has gained new understanding over the years?
Yeah. So when we talk about human rights is the fundamental freedom that we all enjoy. It is inherent in a way that the moment you are a human being, you deserve human rights. The freedoms, the protection that everybody is entitled to simply for having life. And it is imperative that you have the opportunity to express yourself freely, to have dignity, right to education, and to feel that you are part of the human race. Human rights have evolved over the years, honestly. And if you look far back as to when the concept of it was brought into existence, it has dramatically changed because back in the 1800s, human rights was not a term, but rather it was something that was being coined in small cubicles and rooms that gradually became a movement that has changed the narratives of people around them. Human rights is you, human rights is how you define it, and human rights is the knowledge that you have regardless of where you find yourself. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that succinct definition and expansion on the word, the expression human have global systems evolved and social justice in our world today.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Albert Checho. So, about the evolution of global systems regarding human rights and social justices, I believe there has been a significant progress. I mean, comparing from the times of the World War to the times where there were lots of mayhem in the society, like there were global mayhems. But as it stands now, I think there has been some significant progress, but also there have been major failures. And I believe some of the evolution we can see in our world today were madly seen as a result of certain interventions that have been put in place as a global society. I mean, the establishment of the United Nations and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights laid a foundation for a global commitment to human rights. So it sets that kind of pace for every country. There's a documented system where each and every individual gets to know human rights and how they can actually go about their living from day to day. So I think there has been a massive improvement. I mean, there are a lot of interventions. Today, when you come to most of our schools, you see other civil society and media groups like NGOs, example like Anijie Global Foundation. This is a nice initiative, and I see that it's a kind of improvement we are seeing. So yes, that's what I would say. There are more systems that have been put in place to help human rights progress over the years. It has evolved very well, and nonetheless, there has been some failures that we can also address. For example, there have been some inequalities. That is, there's migration and refugees have faced certain form of inequalities. Other marginalized groups have faced certain inequalities that have led to a lot of mayhem in society. But all in all, I think we have made a significant progress, not to talk too much. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Master Abraham, for that submission. Still on understanding human rights and social justice in our world today, Dr. Isiani, I'd like to find out how can we make human rights real and not abstract for young people? In our world today, people see human rights as, oh, it's something abstract. I mean, they say I have the right to do this, but in a country like Ghana, those rights are not protected. How can we make human rights real and not abstract for young people in our world today?
Thank you very much for the question. I think that's a very good question. And to make it real in our world today, I think we have to be more informed. Because if you ask most people, I think, what are human rights, they cannot even define it. The history of human rights, they don't know. So they cannot even defend what they don't know. So first of all, initiatives like this, Anijie Global Foundation, that really talks about human rights. So students that are not maybe in the law domain, like me, medical doctor, I think is really important. So one is really talking more about what is human rights, letting people know that, oh, you have these rights. I think that's the first step, making people aware of their rights. And then the canals, the how do you call it in English? Yeah, the channels to teach them. Of course, I don't even know if it is taught in schools. Personally, I learned of human rights in civil society organizations, so youth-led organizations. I don't really remember it being taught in school, but I think it's important that such a very vital topic should be taught in schools, no matter your domain, medicine, law, arts. I think we all deserve, or we should all know what are human rights and what it entails. So teaching it in schools, teaching it then in communities, using our social media, WhatsApp, Instagram, to actually raise awareness. Many people don't even know that we have a whole month that has been, well, not created, but used by the United Nations to raise awareness on human rights and our International Day of Human Rights. So using this month, using this day, using channels such as this Zoom platform, webinar, your foundation, to actually raise awareness on human rights. And when people will know about human rights, they will see that, oh, but that's not even that abstract. I mean, is common sense that I have the right to education. It's common sense that I have the freedom of expression. But maybe I didn't know that I have the right of freedom. Maybe I didn't know that I had the right to healthcare and what it entails. So I think the first step is actually sharing, teaching for those who know to others what are human rights, what it entails, and using our social media platforms to really reach out to more people. Yeah. I think I answered the question, unless it was two parts.
Yes, it was well taken. Thank you very much for your submission, Dr. Isiani.
You're welcome.
Now, moving on to another area under human rights and social injustice in our world today. I want us to look at tackling inequality. Now, inequality isn't always loud. Sometimes it's very, very quiet. It shows up that where they live or whether they have a disability or not. And it adds up to what we are discussing. And some people face layers of injustice. Set of questions out. Once again, start with Dorcas Asare.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Albert.
Hi, Dorcas. Please, I would
Honestly,
like to find out. Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So I want to find out how do these different parts of whether they have a disability or not combine to create deeper levels of injustice? How do they lead to the injustice we see in our world today?
Please, can you come again? I think my line was breaking a little. Sorry.
Okay. So I mentioned that the next area we would like to talk about in our world today, and inequality in our world today isn't always loud.
Albert, are you still talking? I can't hear anything.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, I can hear you now. I couldn't hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So I was speaking about tackling inequality in our world
Yes.
today. And I mentioned that inequality in our world today isn't very loud. It's very cool how people are treated based on their backgrounds, their beliefs, their assertions, things they relate to and all that, whether they have a disability or not. And I would like to ask this question: that how do these different parts of someone's identity, their race, gender, and all that, how does that combine to create the deeper levels of injustice we see in our world today? How do those lead to the injustice we see in our world today? I don't know if you got the
All right.
question this
Yes,
time.
I got the question now. I got the question.
Thank
So, intersectional injustice is a normal thing in our everyday life. In fact, whether you like it or not, I always say that for the fact that you find yourself in being a human being, one way or the other, you will find these things happen to you. Let's talk about maybe some like a woman of color who maybe has mobility disability in a wheelchair and finds herself in Germany, and she's applying for a job. Now you realize that there are different levels coming. First of all, her color would play a big role. The fact that she's in a wheelchair is another role. The fact that maybe she cannot actually perform the task that is assigned to her is another form of intersectional injustice that happens to her. Looking at the entire condition of this woman, it is coming from simultaneous aspects where this one is looking at this person is looking at this, and so it becomes a very difficult situation for this particular person to feel part of a community. It's a social injustice. It's an inequality that some most times these people don't have the opportunity to have a control over, but to accept the predicaments that they find themselves in. Let's even take another issue of um, how do I say job application software algorithms, because you don't actually know what they even put on the system. You don't actually know the criteria they put on there. So maybe you might put in your application to apply for this job, but indirectly, they might say if you see maybe an African name, just make sure that this person is not a part of is not selected or randomly put in, or maybe you see any African country, or there are a whole lot of different other issues or inequalities that happen in society. Not just even that, there are different things that we don't actually pay much attention to, and if care is not taken, we might find ourselves in very dicey situations. And there are a lot of even barriers that we face, because if you are coming from a very rural community, and you have a court case or something like that, and you have to get a lawyer, even look at the barriers that you face. And in our country, Ghana, where we have over 8 million illiterate people in our country, and that cannot read or write, and imagine they find themselves in the court system where the judges or the women or whoever in there is purported and need to speak English, and they cannot do anything about it because they have to listen to what their lawyers are saying and continue or give them the evidence that they have. You realize that they don't even have the capability. So the injustices that happen in our society has come in different forms or way. And even let's talk about bad roads that we have, because some people are kind of stranded at the area they find themselves in our part of the country, and they cannot do anything about it. They cannot do anything about it. Sometimes even access to the internet to be able to do most of the things that they can is not possible. And for the poor in our society, and the huge gaps that exist between the poor and the rich in our country, renders a lot of people or people with disabilities or whatever individual, whether gay or lesbian or whoever, they all find it quite difficult to live in this society and express themselves and make sure that whatever is going on, they can be inclusive in it. So tackling inequalities can come in different forms. And one final thing I'd want to add is even our healthcare system in this country. It's kind of very sad, because I can give a very vivid example about like 2 weeks ago going to Kolobu, and a cousin of mine needing to have surgery for the eye, and she's been given a date to come, and they tell her that it cannot happen. Then you realize that the doctor has a hospital somewhere where, if the person can truly afford, would rather contact the doctor so that the doctor will be able to perform such surgery on her, so that whatever sickness that she's going through, she becomes better. So the inequalities in our system are a lot, but I believe that with us my fellow speaker said, we have to actually try as much as possible to make it more practical, to make sure that from the onset of it, we educate our children in such a way that they understand what is at stake. Use everyday examples of what happens in school or what happened at home or what happened at church or whichever event they find themselves in to be able to, understand the situation better and apply it in a more friendly and justful way.
Thank you very much. I completely agree. We need to right from the onset, educate the upcoming generation about these inequalities in our various health sectors and other sectors, as mentioned. While we move on, I would like to let the attendees, our audience, know that the chat box is live and they should feel free to use the chat box if you have a comment, if there's something a speaker said you need clarity on, if there's any question you've been pondering over for as long as possible, just leave them in the chat box. Intermittently, I would come there and bring them to our speakers to attend to them. Okay, still on the topic of tackling inequalities in our world today. Master Abraham Nyamiano, I would like to ask you this question. What are some of the things we see every day that are actually unfair, but we just don't notice or speak about? I think Dorcas mentioned a few. I don't know if you have something to add to that as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Albert. Yeah, so I think we've made very profound statements so far. Human rights, as we see or as we know, is mostly not loud. It is very silent. When I'm talking about injustices, sometimes they are very loud. They start very small. And they are the things that we've kind of learned to accept in our society. And it's going a long way to affect us in many ways. I can set some examples like interrupting someone when the person is speaking. Do you believe that that is a form of injustice? These are some of the basic things, like, for example, when someone interrupts a queue or someone tries to skip a queue, it's a form of injustice against the people who have already been in the queue. But it's like we've already learned to accept some of these things. I remember we were trying to make this more practical. We were at MTN office one time, and it was a Saturday, so I decided to dress a bit casual to the place. And there's one thing I saw. There was a queue. I decided to join the queue, and I realized some people came in their cars, let's say SUVs, and with some escorts with other people, and they just entered the office without any form of acknowledgement of a queue there. They didn't mind the security personnel. They just entered, got what they wanted to do done, and they just left. So we see that all these things are social injustice that we've learned to accept. And none of us stood up to complain that why are they allowing them to enter when there is a queue. Another example is our homes. We believe, especially in African homes, we believe ladies are supposed to do certain chores. They are supposed to be given certain duties, all with the aim of preparing them for some, like, let's say, marriage. And we have come to accept some of these things because we believe they are societal norms, and it's something that we can consider as a social injustice. Ladies feel uncomfortable. Sometimes when they come out, they feel uncomfortable outside. They know they have to go home very early. They are not able to aim higher for certain things because of some of these things are are in their way. They have to go back home early. They have to go and do some chores, while the man has to always be at work to do money to the house and all that. There have been all these injustices that we overlook in certain society. I mean, there have been improvements over the years, though, but then all these things are things that we are seeing every day, and we've chosen to accept them without no one questioning some of these things. And some of the fundamental ones can even be judging someone's appearance. You might think there is this quote that says you are dressed the way you are dressed, but then going ahead to judge someone based on their appearance is a form of social injustice. Some of us might not know, but these are all forms of everyday injustices that even us who are educated in human rights and social injustices find ourselves doing. It's a problem in our society now. Sometimes we skip some of these basic ones and we look at criminal stuff. We look at big stuff that are happening in the UN, big stuff that are happening in the WHO, big things that are happening in the big injustices that are happening in the World Health Organization, some of these big things. But then there are basic ones that we have accepted as a society, and it's really eating up the fabric of our society. And that's where it starts from. That's what everyone has been seeing. That's where it starts. To accept the big ones too that are layered against us, the stereotypes that are layered against us, and all those things. So really, I think the line of questioning will put us there so that we'll know how to go about some of these things and get our society to be better. And that's what I'm trying to do all this while.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Master Abraham. Indeed, we need to focus on the little small things we think do not contribute to the social injustice we see in our world today. Thank you very much. Now to Dr. Esiani, I'd like to find out, for people in rural communities, people in poverty, why is it so difficult? Often, why is it so difficult for them to access justice in our world today? Our world today. You think there are certain things institutions can put in place to help them bridge their gap, the existing gap between them and justice? Dorcas Asare, can you kindly attend to that question? I think Dr. Esiani is having a little challenge. Yeah, so I'll take the question again. So the question is, currently there is an existing gap between the people in rural communities, the poor people, and justice. They find it very difficult to have access to justice in our world today. What do you think are certain initiatives that institutions and global systems can put in place to ensure that this existing gap is bridged for the people in the rural communities and the poor people? Sorry for the lack of better words here.
Oh, okay. To be very honest, the challenges that rural communities, or as I mostly want to call it, grassroots individuals face is enormous. Like, it's so serious. If you've gotten the opportunity to leave or stay with them, you realize that it's not just about them accessing justice. It's about them not even having the self confidence or self worth to think they can access justice. The few people in their communities that have the knowledge, that have the expertise to support them be able to access the justice, sometimes charge exorbitant prices to even support them. Now, when they are there, and let's take an example like there's going to be a development project in their community, and the government comes, are going to do this, are going to do that, and their lands have been taken away from them, and they need to, how do I say it, access compensations and things like that. They have to also, how do I say, take different kinds of cars or different routes to get to the office to communicate and talk to them about whatever is happening and even to get their compensation. Now, the initiative that different organizations can do is something I call the grassroots drive. It is where people that understand the community that they are going to are recruited to actually go there. And one thing we need to also know is the cultural barriers that exist there. So if you're supposed to actually want to go to this community, these organizations need to make sure that their project leads or the people that are supposed to communicate with these grassroots individuals know their culture, know what these people stand for, what best represents them, or what they truly understand and resonate with. Now you go there, build that rapport with them, and start to educate them in their own local language, in their own perspective, in things that they actually experience in their everyday lives to explain what justice is to them. That is when you're going to tell them, oh, you are entitled to get legal counsel, or you are entitled to know this and this and that. That is when you're going to tell them they have right to freedom of expression, and you teach them systematically what this is. Now you give them the guidelines and processes, which numbers to call. If they call these people, who they are supposed to come to in this particular area, and what they will be able to get if they manage to get there. So if they come to this particular area and they won't get anything, then these are the next steps. It is about organizations not just going there to do projects, and after the project, that's the end of it. Communication is seized with these communities. They don't want anything to do with them. Pictures are taken for social media and all kinds of things. And you go back there some maybe months later to realize that nothing actually worked. So while teaching them these scenarios, you rather take those that are capable enough amongst them to go through the process. Take them to this particular office. Okay, this is where you have to do this. Show them the route so that when they come back, they would also show their, their children. Also, there is one thing that could also be done. I think in our Ghanaian culture, there's something we call storytelling, which I experienced when I was young because my grandfather loved those things. So we were in the city, we gather with the children and tell us different analysis stories or different stories about our culture. We can also utilize these avenues where we can impact the knowledge to these elderly people for them to understand, or people of high influence in the community who holds the authority, tell them the benefits that will come if they are supposed to support this initiative, and let them teach their community members what it entails. Not just that, to also look out for the bright individuals, the individuals that show so much potential, um, show that they were very much interested to equip themselves or learn. Give them the opportunity if these organizations or international organizations have, and train them. Sometimes it's not just about taking them to school, but rather equipping them, mentoring them consistently over a period of time to make them form of independent, to hold up, stand up to these particular individuals. Maybe if it be the AFDB, or if it be any form of governmental project or any form of real estate project, make them know and be assertive that they know their rights. They know that if they do this, it is wrong, and these are the ways and means they might take them through. This will also deter these individuals from actually infringing upon their human rights and also the communities seeking justice when the need be. That is what I can say.
Thank you very much, Dorcas Asare, for that submission. I think you mentioned everything we needed to hear. The fact that most people in this category I mentioned, the people in the rural areas and people in poverty don't see their self-worth, and they don't see the how much they are worth when it comes to appealing and standing for what is rightfully theirs in the area of human rights and social justice. So yes, I mean, awareness must surely be done about it to bring them to the light of that. And as I mentioned, I'll be reading the comments in our chat box intermittently, and I can see our chat box is very active, and there are some few things over there I'd like to read before we continue. So Joseph Palmer says, can we measure the effectiveness of inequality reducing policies? Can we measure the effectiveness of inequality reducing policies? Dr. Karen Isiani, I don't know if you can take this question. Okay, I'll just go ahead and read the question so that speakers pick
Hello, Albert. Can I
ones they
take
like
the
to.
question?
Come again.
Can I take the question?
Yes,
how does
please, you
it?
can.
Yeah. So it can be measured. It can actually be measured whether you like it or not. These reducing policies could include, tax reduction or tax relief that is given to different people, or the income support that they get from the government's programs. Sometimes something like the social welfare. I don't know how many of us here. How do I say it? Conversant with the witchcraft acquisition bill that the government is still working on, where various people that have been branded as witches in their various towns or something get some form of relief, things that help them. So looking at the individuals and looking at how things have changed for them, you can actually measure these, taking data from them and asking them. It could be how do I say it in a quantitative form or qualitative form, asking them through interviews, and there are a whole lot of things, the food stamps and things that the Western world also have. You can actually understand. So inequality reducing policies can be very much measured by looking at the individuals that it has been targeted to, making sure they have a monitoring and evaluation criteria, and it's different for every specific project or every specific government initiative or program or relief that comes about. So different agencies in the country has different how do I say it, initiatives or how they can actually measure it. So when you actually, how do I say it, get to do something, then you and the team that you find yourself in would know the best measures as to what you can actually use to be able to, measure whatever actually happened. So that's what I can say. It can.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dorcas Asare. That was well approached. And I believe Joseph Palmer's question has been answered. And also in the comment section, we have Jerry John Ein saying the power of relationship. And Gladys Machwama is also giving a clapping hands emoji. Then we also have one question here from Joseph Palmer again. What do you see as the most pressing human rights issue right now? What do you see as the most pressing human rights issue?
Okay. Mr. Abesheche, please can I address this question?
Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you very much. So I believe this is an important question. The most pressing human rights issue in our current society. I believe this question, it will vary from place to place and society to society. But then when you take our society as a nation, let's say Ghana as a nation, I think currently the most pressing human rights issue, that's like the most inequality that we are facing, is youth unemployment. We might say this is a social issue and all that, but then youth unemployment is actually an inequality issue, because I mean, young Ghanaians who have completed their education, they have the right education and all that, but they lack the job opportunities, and because of that, they end up trying to exploit new avenues to find job and also make ends meet. And this exposes them to a lot of vulnerabilities. And some of these vulnerabilities, some of them are very devastating to their health, to their growth as individuals, to their personal development, and it affects almost every facet of their lives, trying to find jobs. So currently, the most pressing issue as a Ghanaian society, that is Ghana in general, is the lack of job opportunities. It might not itself be the main inequality, but then the kind of vulnerability it brings to some of these young people trying to find jobs, trying to do all sorts of things for job. We see women doing all sorts of things. I mean, promiscuous lives and all that, trying to make sure they make ends meet, and that's exposed them to a lot of diseases, a lot of injustices. That is domestic violences. People enter into marriages because they need men, or they need men to satisfy some of their needs for them. So they just enter into marriages without considering all these things, and they expose themselves to gender-based violence. So this youth unemployment is a canker that is eating into the fabric of our society. It has affected a lot of things because it puts a lot of pressure on the youth. That is it. And if you go into, as I said earlier on, this question can be addressed on many levels. Taking Ghana as a whole, we can see the youth unemployment as something, a gateway to a lot of inequalities being laid against the youth. But then into rural areas and other societies too, you see the sub-societies under Ghana as a nation, you see that there are a lot of injustices towards some marginalized groups of people. We see a lot of cultural rights that they are not human. They are very appalling to kind of think of the way some of these people think. But then it is well accepted in those areas, and they see no problem with it. So it will take a lot of education. So these are some of the basic human rights inequalities that we see in our societies from day to day. And also corruption and lack of accountability. Now, we see government members of the government not being accountable for some of the things they do. Some of these people, they get away with the kind of relationships they have. They get away with the kind of, let's say, the kind of power or their social status in society. Some of us have had the opportunity to visit the, how do you call it, the prisons. And you go and you hear some of the stories of some of these prisoners where someone will, out of hunger, that is one, poverty, out of hunger, just go and take someone's food or someone's, I think there was this gentleman who went to take someone's plantain, plantain. And he has been jailed for 4 years. It was about 250 cedis, but he couldn't pay. So you can see that such a person has been stripped of his human rights just because of the kind of social class he found himself in. He was poor, and that is why he has to be put in prison, because he has to survive at the end of the day. At the end of the day, he must survive. And if he's not finding any way to survive, the only way is to go and find any means, like by stealing. But then we have government who are doing all sort of things, and there are evidences that prove that these people must find themselves in these jails. But then social status, they have good representation in terms of lawyers. Normal people, poor people, do not have some of these lawyers to defend them and all that, so they end up in all these places. So the most common one is, I think, poverty opens the way, the unemployment. It opens the way to a whole lot of vulnerabilities, a whole lot of inequalities laid against individuals in the society today. Thank you very much, Joseph.
Thank you. Can I also add something, Albert?
Yes, please, you can.
Yeah, so I think I understand Abraham a lot, but I also have how do I say it, some of the present human rights issues we have in our country. Now, environmental rights, galamsey mining activities, the issue is just devastating because it's a human right to clean water, to have the safe space, to feel free to express yourself about matters. That is a big human rights you're also facing in the country. And looking at the devastation impact that is happening, because now even if you take Ghana water, you are in Accra and you take Ghana water, the amount of alum that is used to cleanse the water for you to drink, because most of the forest reserves that we have are currently being depleted, and there's nothing that could be done about it. Now, Ghana Water Company has to use huge sums of money to be able to clear the water to make it safe for people to drink. But still, individuals or people in that community has nothing to say. They don't have the power. They don't have the lawyers, because who knows the one mining there? If they try, care is not taken, they might lose their life. Journalists or individuals that try to go to these places to um, look at what exactly is happening or film it sometimes end up being brutally beaten by the military of our country. It's a huge human rights issue that if we don't take care, we are all going to suffer the huge consequences of it. Police brutality. Now, the youth in the country cannot talk about it. They say you are having a protest. And in the country, you're supposed to make sure that if you have a protest, you notify the police 72 hours before that protest. Now the police knows exactly which route you are going to take, and they come to you to make sure that you are actually abiding by their rules, which means the freedom of expression that we have as Ghanaians is taken away from us. Our waters are being destroyed, and there's nothing that we can do. The number of child trafficking that is happening in our country, from northern region from western region to, is serious, and these are all human rights issues. And as my fellow speaker Abraham rightly said, this has caused a lot of youth unemployment, and so the youth in the country is being very much creative in finding ways and means to actually survive. Because we have weak enforcement. If even the government says that, okay, so today from henceforth nobody is supposed to go to the mining areas to mine again. No matter what happens, you might go there in 2 days time or 3 days time, when you realize that people are mining, people are still trying to get the gold or whichever minerals that they can get away from them. And even the rate, the corruption that is happening in the country is a huge human rights issue, because you wonder how these individuals manage to get the licenses that they have to be able to operate in these communities. And you realize that people in these communities are having very serious diseases. You talk to some of these doctors there, and you realize that the people in these communities are coming with cancer and diseases that they're not supposed to be having. And you see mercury when you have lab tests, and heinous deformities that is happening to children or pregnant women in these communities. I think anyone here can actually go and watch I forgot the name, Gold for Galamsey on YouTube by Erastus Asare, who's an investigative journalist. And you realize that some of these human rights issues you might think does not affect you, but in the long run, you're going to drink Ghana Water Company. You're going to drink Ghana Water, and if you don't take care, you might be drinking some of these harmful substances into your body that will cause a lot of serious issues. So when it comes to Ghana, the human rights issues that we have in our country, the most pressing ones, they are many. They are countless, and each and every one of them have a huge role to play if we don't take care and make some sort of efforts towards it. We face a very serious implication in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Your submissions and your submission and that of Master Abraham Nyamiano has done justice to the question posed by Joseph Palmer. Yes. Thank you very much. Now, there are a few more questions in the chat box, but we'll come back to that. We are steering to another area of our discussion today, and we'll come back to the questions in the chat box. Yes, now in tackling modern injustices, we live in a world where prisons are part of the law enforcement initiatives to tackle the modern injustice we have in our world today. So I'd like to pose this question to Dr. Karen Isiani. Do you think prisons in your country are actually helping people change or punishing them?
Thank you very much for the question. I'm sorry for the in and out. My internet connection is not the most stable right now, and I switched to my phone because it's a little bit better. So the question to, do you think the prison system in my country, Cameroon, actually solves the issues? This is my point of view, and I don't think it solves the issue. Because the prison system right now, what does it do? It just incarcerates the individual. There's no reformation of the mindset. There's no reformation of the thinking of these individuals. And punishing the individual without making him understand that this act wasn't good, and maybe showing him different parts, like, okay, you're incarcerated, but you can still continue your education. You're incarcerated, but you can still develop these skills. You're incarcerated, but you can still, in our system, no, this doesn't exist. The individuals are just incarcerated for the time given, and then they go out and do the same as you call it, daily, en français on dit daily, that they did before. So I don't think the current system is the best. It doesn't solve the issue. It just restrain them for a period of time, and then when they get back to the real world, most would do the same thing again.
Thank you very much for that submission as well, Dr. Karin Isiani. Yes, now still on the subject of tackling modern injustices today, we've spoken of how prisons, whether they play a role or not, and I think Dr. Isiani's submission on it to our panelists, that's how do schools, churches, political systems, these are institutions we are supposed to trust when it comes to protecting our rights, making sure that there aren't modern injustices. How are these institutions failing? Like they end up failing people. They end up failing the people they are meant to protect. So how are we supposed to trust them? How are we supposed to relay that kind of support we need from them? Yeah. I'd like to pose it to the panelists. Anyone up for it? How are the institutions supposed to protect us? How are we supposed to trust them? While these same institutions, time and time again, prove to be failing us, the people they are supposed to protect, they prove to be failing us. So I'd like to pose it to the panelists.
Okay, Albert. So, whether you like it or not, your church will fail you, or your school would fail you. The political party will fail you. And as individuals, we need to understand that we are all not perfect, and one way or the other, we will find ourselves in this situation. Now, the expectation cap must be cut down. Because if you find yourself in this situation, sometimes it might not be the church that will come in for you. Because churches are prioritizing reputation. Imagine if you go to tell someone that maybe your church elder has harassed you or something like that. In fact, the first thing that they would say is that, are you sure? People don't really believe that it has actually happened. And if care is not taken, you, the individual, will be sacked from the church, and you find yourself in, how do I say it, serious waters that you never imagined yourself in. I believe that you need to find individuals you can trust within the church. We have church counselors, and these church counselors sometimes are bound by some form of restrictions a little bit, which makes them of a good option for you to approach. The church as a whole sometimes will judge you as an individual or judge you as an organization or wherever you find yourself in. But finding specific individuals in there that you can actually trust and talk to them would be a better option for you to actually thrive in these spaces. Political parties and things, no matter what, have national, how do I say, national responsibilities they have to uphold. And if care is not taken, they might not actually support you one way or the other. So finding solace, or you yourself making sure you are well abreast with your human rights, know the laws that govern you, and understanding it very well will build power for you. And making sure the people around you is also aware of what you know would go a long way to support you to be able to protect yourself and survive or gain the protection of your church or organization or school or political party or wherever that you find yourself. That's what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the submission. I don't know if anyone else
Okay. Please, can you hear me?
like to add what Ms. I can.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think Ms. Dorcas has really tackled the question very well. I also believe it is very true that we can't trust some of these societies or some of these institutions because, first of all, they already have the kind of appointments the people who are placed in these institutions get before they come into the institutions are politically driven. Their appointments are based on political interest, not just for they are being known for advocacy reasons. So they end up satisfying, let's say, party what their party demands of them. So when there is a major problem that has to be addressed in society, we see some of these institutions keep quiet or just go be diplomatic about it, just to lower the tone of how devastating the problem is affecting our society. But then we can't say we will not trust these institutions entirely, because we are the ones who must foster some of these institutions to work. So we must change these things from inside out. It must happen with the individuals in this society. I have had the opportunity to work with persons from the NCCE. I think last December, before the elections, we had opportunity to talk about how the kind of things they are putting in place for the elections, how they are protecting rights to prevent people's rights from being infringed, to prevent electoral violence and all those things. And you could also see that there are certain bureaucracies that have been put in place that inhibit some of these. It becomes an obstacle to their ability to work effectively, because you see someone in the institution might have the urge to do something, but because they have to go through certain offices, they have to send these papers to this place before they would approve, and that one too has to go through another layer. Someone has to append their signature before all these things will happen. Then the damage has been caused. And Martin Luther King says something that I think, if I'm trying to paraphrase, right denied or right delayed is right denied. If someone's right is delayed, then it is denied, because it must be timely. You get it? So it's very difficult to trust some of these institutions. But I believe the media is one way we can get out of some of these hindrances, because now we have the opportunity to, let's say, take videos or air out our own opinions on certain issues that are not going well. And now governments are moved by the people's interest, the people's opinions, something that will help keep them in power. So if they get the masses on board through your media coverages and all that, now attention comes to it. So I think the media is something we can trust now. That's I think the sure institution or the sure intervention that can help as it stands now. So we can take advantage of the media now. You can create your own Instagram account. You can create your own Twitter account and advocate for some of these rights. You see something going wrong in society, you can just take a quick video. No one is able to stop you. But once again, we have police brutality and all those things. You try and video them, they come against you. So you try and find a safe place and know you can go ahead and record some of these things and put it out there. And the institutions will come and address some of these issues. So far, I believe the media is the best institution or the best avenue to help, let's say, bring some of these institutions on board to help the injustices we are seeing in our society now. But left to that, it will take a lot for some of these institutions to win our trust again, because trust is not something we demand. It's something that is earned. And if they do the right things, we are definitely going to they are going to earn our trust and all that. So I think we should use the media platforms very well, and it's going to go a long way to put some of these institutions on their toes. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your submission, Master Ibrahim Nyamiano. And I believe these submissions from our panelists would be enough to tackle the area of how we can approach modern injustices, how we can put measures in place to make sure that these modern injustices are being attended to. Now, I'd like us to look at the last the last area under our discussion today on human rights and social injustices. Now we've spoken of the problems, we've spoken of several ways the people are supposed to protect us, institutions supposed to protect their human rights are failing, several the way they are supposed to go. Now we are coming to look at activism and change making. How can we, in a small way, effect the change we so much desire from the global systems and the institutions supposed to protect our rights? So this part is we have 3 questions here. Our first question is, what are some small but real things ordinary people can do to fight injustice? I mean, in the we can contribute our quota to as the small but real things ordinary people can also do to help in the fight against injustice. Ms. Dorcas Asare, I would love for you to take this question.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, please.
Okay. So there's the small actions that you can take is, first of all, the mindset. The mindset has an important role to play. It starts from you making up your mind that when you see, you do something about it. Sometimes, if it's out of your control, then you try as much as possible to find the next best alternatives to be able to, share what actually happened, or just find the best way to sell the information across. Now, what I would actually say is that we need to have a form of effective advocacy and make sure that our digital organization works in handling or improving the relationships that we have with, other people. Now, if you want to actually effect true change in your life, then it means that you have to actually equip yourself as an individual also, apart from actually just having the growth mindset to tackle challenges that come your way. There is one particular thing that I would want to also share, that if you want to learn a lot about human rights, any form of human rights, whether refugees, economic, international, or anything, Amnesty International has a platform that we call Human Rights Academy. When you sign in or join it or register for it or something like that, you get the opportunity to have very short courses, sometimes 1 hour or 30 minutes, where you get to learn about human rights and various issues and the best alternative that you can actually use. So this is just a pass-through comment to actually help our participants here. And the change making is to make sure that you partner with the right organizations, you partner with the right institutions. Sometimes the mission and vision of some of these organizations indirectly makes it difficult for you to help make a change in your community. If you've learned about what human rights is, if you've had the knowledge or the opportunity to know how systems work or how processes are done, then you don't keep it to yourself. When you go to your village and you visit your grandmother or that cousin or that auntie or that uncle that is there, find ways and means to share that opportunity. Don't go there thinking that they are not important and having a stereotypical beliefs because they are there and they don't know much and decide not to share this information. You need to try as much as possible to share this information. Wherever you find yourself and you see that someone is doing something that does not go accordingly, that infringes on the rights of people, you have the right to actually voice out. But as I said earlier, make sure that the environment you find yourself is very safe. If you are a girl and you hear someone discussing they're going to rape someone, you cannot just go and confront them right at that particular instant. What you have to do rather is that you would walk away and make sure you report it to the right authorities, people that you know have the power and authority to be able to effect the changes. try as much as possible to join these conferences, even such webinars like this, to gain the needed knowledge and requisites to empower yourself more, so that when you are speaking or when you are talking about these matters, it's not as if you are talking out of air. And it's not as if you are talking without having any knowledge, but rather you'll be viewed as someone who actually understands systems, or being the individual that stands out as different in your community, being that individual that makes sure that you share the information across the young siblings that you had there, impacting the knowledge. And apart from that, I believe that trying to also take small leadership roles wherever you find yourself, or volunteering for some initiatives that will help curb the troubles or injustices we have in our society is more than good. If you have the content creation, maybe you're a good photographer or something like that, and something is happening in the community, and you believe that you can add your quota to this, then why not volunteer to help such organizations to amplify the needs of that society and make sure that the information cuts across? But let's be wary of this information too that happens in different forms, where sometimes our media do not portray exactly what is actually happening. So we need to make sure that we equip ourselves, have the knowledge that is needed, and also seek assistance when we think we are lost. If you think that you don't have the knowledge, if you think that things are not going on well, you are confused, seek the advice of individuals. You can look out to up to mentors, and if I say mentors, make sure that the mentors that you are getting are individuals that hold the real knowledge, not individuals that will just use you and dump you somewhere. But make sure you have a good, healthy, cordial relationship with these people, and to make sure that they guide you to do what is expected. That is the right so I can say. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very good submission, Ms. Dorcas Asare. And I think with that, on this question, says, how do we amplify grassroots voices without tokenism? So to break down this question, how do we make sure the voices from the ground, like those really living through the situations, the victims, how do we make sure that their voices are heard and not just used as a box to take? Thank you very much. I'd like Masa Abraham Nyamiano to answer this question.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think tokenism is also a very big problem that we are facing now in our society, especially in our Ghanaian society. I hope I can be heard.
Loud and clear.
Thank you very much. So
let me break down that I think
Albert has explained it properly, but then it is when
a person, or let's say
a group of people are
let's say represented.
I used to represent a particular
let's say injustice or
inequality
without
true inclusion
in the solution
to the problem. So when, let's say, a government wants to implement something like educational policy, where they've not effectively maybe gone through to find out how feasible and everything will be, they just bring students to represent their policy. So you see photos of students representing the policy, and they are just trying to use it as just, let's say, a representation. There is no form of true inclusion of these individuals. Another form is and they will just bring out these farmers, post pictures of some of these farmers and all those things, just to represent the group farmers. But then there is no less in shaping, let's say, when it comes to agriculture, or when it comes to like farming practices in Ghana. So the grassroots are mostly not used, are not included in the process. They are just represented. They are just used as a representation. And this, we have to, as a society, we have to shift from mere representation to participation, where some of these individuals are involved in decision making. I felt that the various sectors of our society should be headed by individuals who have the practical knowledge, or let's say the technical know-how for some of these things. Because you can't put someone who I'm just giving a hypothetical situation. You can't put someone who has majored in, let's say, business and all things in a place like healthcare to come and lead, let's say, a group of nurses or a group of doctors. You see the kind of this, you see disparity in knowledge, and it will take a long time for such a person to understand the things that goes the profession he was representing. So I think we should shift from mere representation and all those things to actually making these people participate in shaping society or shaping their world to make it an effective and a better place. Else, we'll continue to see representation tokenism being repeated in our society from today. And I think we should also share the power. Power should be shared amongst people who have the technical, because I believe I, I do not believe the fact that people are saying Ghanaians we do not have the personnel for some of the things we have in our society. I believe we have the personnel, but then these people do not have the power to make certain decisions that can't. Because at the end of the day, if they bring, let's say, I'm a medical student or I'm a doctor, let's say someone like Karen has found a cure for a particular, let's say, disease or an ailment. It will take her to have certain like power or certain things be able to implement or bring some of these things in our healthcare system. She is not there, or there's no one who knows some of these things. We will see people who don't have the technical know-how preventing some of these things from happening because they don't really have expertise in these things, and they will put anyhow, and it will go along to expose us as society. So all these things, they worry in our society. If we have people with the technical know-how and all that, it's going to go a long way to help prevent making the decisions with them, not just allowing them to be shown in the media as, oh, these are the people who are being represented by all, let's say, this particular policy. No. And also, let's say, lack of resources. Some of these people are mere representatives because they don't have the resources. So they are just made resources, or let's say the training. So they are just used for, they go and take some people from rural areas, come and use to represent some projects they want to do. If these people have the training, they wouldn't go and hire, let's say, people from other places to come and do the work in that particular area. Let's say they want to build a bridge in a rural area. This is an opportunity because these people are not trained. They don't have the kind of knowledge to construct a bridge. They have See, we see that once again, representation is getting on the low. We see the problem worsening from day to day. And these people end up complaining and all that. So I think we should also enhance training. Thank you very much. So I think I've mentioned training. I've also mentioned the fact that we should also make sure that power is shared amongst, and we should have true inclusion presentation of some of these marginalized groups in our society, using them for just the camera and not actually including them in the decision-making process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your submission, Mr. Nyami Abraham Ano. Now, our last question for today's discussion before we move on to the few questions we have in the chat box goes to Dr. Karen Isiani. Doc, in today's world of several hashtags and several campaigns against human rights and injustice and all that. What does real and effective advocacy actually look like? Can we categorize the hashtags, the online campaigns? Can we categorize that as being effective advocacy for the issue of human rights and social injustice?
Thank you for the question. What does real advocacy looks like in 2025? I would say advocacy, be it real or not, should always touch the heart and touch the brain. That is, advocacy should be led with facts, data, but moreover with empathy. We should include those who are actually, how do we say, those who are actually, excuse me, will come involved in this human rights issues. We should include them and even let them lead. For me, that is how real advocacy, wherever the domain, should be. Include empathy and data. And it should not just rely on, how do we say it, taking pictures, sharing on social medias, making yourself look good. No, that's not the aim of the advocacy. Really, if you even have to use the personal stories of these victims or these human rights issues, it should really to bring out change, real change. And I'll end this question by saying or quoting Barack Obama when he said, "Be the change you want to see." Thank you.
Thank you very much. Indeed, we need to be the change we want to see in our world today. Yes, and we need to move we need to move past just online campaigns and all that, and actively campaign in our real lives as well. Thank you very much for that submission, Dr. Esiani. So now I'll move back to the few more questions we have in our chat box before we can end today's session. So now we have So we have Joseph Palmer saying, "Thank you very much, Ms. Dorcas and Mr. Abraham, for answering my questions. You are welcome." And then we also have Gladys saying, "Thank you, Dorcas, for your submission. Self-confidence indeed should be installed in the younger generation to curb most of these injustices." Also, we have a question from Jerry John Hine saying, "With regards to the dress, the way you want to be addressed, I was thinking it's based on the occasion." Or so Jerry John Ahin wants a clarification here on the statement, "Dress the way you want to be addressed." He thinks it's based on the occasion. What do our panelists think about this question?
Oh, okay. Albert, can I take this one a little? Add my submission. Okay. So dress the way you are to be addressed. Uh, yeah, the occasion really matters because you can't take a wedding dress to, how do I say it, a wedding gown to the office and just have a panel, maybe a board meeting with the people there. But this question that you're asking comes from the stereotypical beliefs we have in our society. In our part of the world in Ghana, we have standards as to how we should dress. I remember there was one time I got the opportunity to meet some people from the US Embassy, and I remember a colleague I had known, an international student, telling me, "Oh, don't go there like the Ghanaian. Go there as a normal person that you are." I didn't really understand her, so I dressed my official way, got in heels, dressed up like I'm ready to meet these people. And I went there to the shock of my life. These people are in just cakes and normal teas and jeans. I felt so out of place because I thought the occasion was, a high profile event where, we are going to discuss issues and things like that. And I went there, I was quite surprised. So the whole entire event and mix up networking, I felt so weird. I just had to go and sit at the corner. It was later that someone told me that I can still mingle regardless of how I look. I think most of the people they understand how Ghanaians appear at different things. It doesn't matter how you look. It doesn't matter how you dress. It is you who choose what you want to do. And nobody has the right to tell you to dress this way or not. You dress in clothes that makes you feel comfortable. You dress the way you want. So if that is what you want, then don't care about what other people will say. You just get in whatever that you want to get in and go out there. Because of our stereotypical beliefs, we have created this mindset within ourselves that this is how you are supposed to appear for this. This is how you are supposed to appear for that. So the societal conformity that we find ourselves in has kind of have dictated to us how we should react, how we should dress, and a whole lot of other things. But you, the individual, needs to decide. And I think as time goes and the people around you will have a simple, okay, she dressed simply or she's a sophisticated person. You build your own self and how you want people to see you. So how you dress is up to you. But sometimes you need to also take notice because you can't take a full funeral attire to a wedding. So you have to take the subtle things that happens in our society, some of the small rules, but don't go too much extreme that it has to dictate fully to you what you need to do. And you don't have to care about what people say, but what you think is what matters. And the people that you are involved in and maybe their little opinions they have. But most importantly, just know that how you dress is up to you. But you know that what you are doing is right, and that can actually help you and the people around you or not. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that submission, Dorcas Asare. I believe that brings us to the end of the questions we have in the chat box. Yes. So to sum everything up, today's seminar on human rights and social injustice, we started by unpacking what justice and human rights means in our current dispensation and in different contexts, and how different systems meant to protect us sometimes fail, especially when it comes to young people. And we also looked at the many layers of inequality, race, gender, ability, poverty, and other things can deepen our injustice in the world we live in today. We also highlighted how we can put practical solutions to attack this issue we have in our city. Doesn't always you really need past just be speaking online and all that, and try and move for these things in person, try and live the lives you want to see, be the change you want to see. And that's the small actions we take sometimes can lead to big differences in the world we would like to see someday. My notes are full, guys. Like, I have a lot of takeaways from today's session. I believe you're also blessed by the presentation from our speakers today. So without wasting much time, I'll just entreat us all to carry this conversation beyond this room, and let's make sure this reflects into action. It should move past we just hearing them and just not applying them. We need to apply them to see the changes we would like to see in our world. Thank you once again to our speakers, Dorcas Asare, Abraham Nyamiano, and Dr. Karen Esiani, for sharing your invaluable insights.
Thank
and
you
thanks
very
to everyone who
much,
joined us
Mr.
today.
Chechi.
Welcome. And as I mentioned, our Masterclass series is part of our Anijie Masterclass series, which is a monthly online learning initiative, bringing together global change makers, industry leaders, and emerging talents to shape the next generation of African leadership. Through these interactive sessions, we bridge the gap between aspiration and achievements, theory and practice, challenges and solution. Our next masterclass is scheduled for the 30th of July, typically the last Wednesday of every month, though dates may vary sometimes, and would communicate as and when the dates change. To stay updated on our upcoming events, please subscribe to the Anijie YouTube site to rewatch today's session and get the insights once again. The video will be posted on our YouTube channel for you to get the opportunity to go over the session once more. Once again, thank you very much for joining, and I would like to apologize for the time we started today. There were a few challenges on my end, and this won't repeat enough. Subsequently, I end the session completely. I don't know if our speakers have last words for us. I don't know if our speakers.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Albert Churchill. So I think if there's anything we should all take home today, we should know that social justice doesn't begin in those big courtrooms or official statements of governments and all those things. It begins with how we treat people in our everyday lives. So what I'll entreat us all to be kind to everyone. Be kind to the person you live with, be kind to the person you work with, be kind with everyone that's around you. Because social justice and all those things, it happens from our day-to-day activities. And let's be better people for our society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Master Abraham Nyamiano.
Okay, so Albert, what I would finally want to say is that standing or fighting for human rights starts with you and where you find yourself. Regardless of the situation, regardless of the circumstances, we can all light a candle wherever we find ourselves, no matter how dark the place is. That subtle or small action that you want to take, that small initiative that you can do, that small words you need to say or bring out of your mouth might make the difference. So wherever we find ourselves, it starts with us. Let's advocate. Let's make sure we equip ourselves. Let's make sure we have the knowledge at hand, but rather not be advocates for disinformation, but rather give information that is valuable and help our communities, help our families, and also give the information out to make others benefit and make our communities a better place, and our country, Ghana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dorcas Asare. Your insights today were so great. I don't know if Dr. Esiane is on the call. I doubt she's on the call, but at least we've gotten some few words from two of our speakers, and I believe we should take these words with us as we seek to make impact and change in the field of human rights. So viewers and audience, this concludes our session today. I look forward to hosting you one more time for our masterclass next month on 30th July. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.